Hey guys, welcome to Learn to Lead. This is our first session. I'm super excited about this. I have my beautiful friend Kim White here, SSD, and I'm going to let her introduce herself a little bit. But she's going to talk about time management, which we all can use a lot of, I'm sure, especially now that school's back in session. So without further ado, Kim, take it away.
All right. Thanks, Bonnie. All right. Hi, you guys. I'm super excited to be here. As Bonnie said, my name is Kim White. I am a superstar director from Brownstown, Michigan. So I also just say, okay, up here in Michigan, we don't have any fun languages, terminology, none of that good stuff. Anyway, so I have been with Sensi for, it's going on 6 years, which is a little bit crazy because besides being a mom, I don't think I've ever held a job for 6 years. So bonus points for Sensi for keeping me here that long. So in addition to Sensi, I am a preschool teacher. So I teach 3-year-old preschool, and I'm also a mom of triplets. So managing my time is pretty important. I know all about trying to balance work life and home life and doctor's appointments and sports and activities and all of the things, right? And I am not like the expert at time management. I don't know that there's anybody out there that is an expert at time management, but I do what I can, and I am going to share some things with you guys that work for me, that help me balance somewhat the crazy life that I live and the crazy life that we all live. I mean, we are all busy. I don't think that there's anybody out there in this world that is sitting around going, gosh, I wish I had more to do. There's always more things on our list than there are hours in the day. So it's super important that we learn how to effectively manage the time that we have. We have 24 hours. There's no way to get any more of that. And honestly, you guys, if we did have more time, like I feel like a lot of times I'm like, if I only had more time, if I only had like 3 more hours. But let's be honest, if we had more time, we would probably find useless things to fill it with. Because in reality, we do have more time than we think we do in the day. And we fill it with things like scrolling Facebook and Netflix and snacking and all of those things that are kind of just we don't really realize we're doing them. So even if we had more time, we would still have to know how to manage it, right? Because otherwise we would fill it with more fluff. And so figuring out how to effectively work your business so that it fits into the things that maybe aren't negotiable in your life, like getting kids to school or going to work or doctor's appointments. The beauty with Sensi is that we have the flexibility to kind of fill those little pockets of time by working our business. We don't necessarily have to be sitting at our desk doing Sensi from 9 to 5 or 5 to 9 or whatever it is, but we do have little pockets of time throughout the day that we can dedicate to our business. But the key is, number one, being consistent. And I feel like it doesn't matter what topic somebody comes onto a training and talks about. I feel like consistency is always going to be a huge part of it. Whether it's where you're talking about specifics about follow-up or parties or anything, consistency is like at the root of everything that we do, because once you stop being consistent, it all goes out the window. Your credibility goes out the window, everything goes out the window. So figuring out a way to manage your day that will let you get in as much as you possibly can to be, I should say, is that will allow you to be as productive as you possibly can. Because we can be busy, everybody's busy, right? But if we're not getting anything done at the end of the day, if you didn't check anything off your list, what did you do? So I feel like when it comes down to time management, there's 3 things that typically we get hung up on, or that keep us from effectively managing our days. And it's priorities, planning or lack thereof, and procrastination. So 3 P's that keep us from being effective. And obviously this goes in around our entire life, but obviously we're talking about our Sensi businesses. So it keeps us from being able to dedicate and be intentional with our day in our Sensi business: lack of planning, lack of priorities, and procrastination. It's super important for you to figure out. I think for me, I'm just going to kind of like, I don't know, maybe let you guys into my brain a little bit, but I don't know if anybody here does brain dumps. I brain dump like at least once a week. And I wish I would have brought my notebook in here because it is a hot mess, but I literally will just write down. I have sentences, I have pictures, I have doodles, I have everything that is literally up here, and I put it on paper, because if I can't keep it straight up here, there is no way I'm going to be able to like make anything happen if I'm going in a million different directions in my brain. And I think we all have that. Like I said, we've got families, we've got jobs, we've got all kinds of things that are going on. My mom just spent 3 days in the hospital. So like my week kind of went out the window, but I was able to come home and look and see like, okay, yes, I didn't get to these things on these days because I wasn't home. So they're still on my list, but let me figure out how I can get them done, right? So brain dumping, I think, is really important just to kind of get yourself organized, because we don't have like file folders in our brain, but we can very easily organize things on paper or on a spreadsheet, or if you're techie and you do everything online, however it works for you, get it out of your brain and get it somewhere else so that you can organize it. Because once you do that, you can start figuring out where you can plug those things, those to-dos, into your day. If that means, I mean, you may have to get up 30 minutes earlier than you normally do if you want to get a workout in, or if you want to, I don't know, do some follow-ups in the morning, whatever it is. I am not a morning person. So if I can do anything to avoid getting up any earlier than I absolutely have to, I'm all for it. So I try to figure out where I can do those things in the other parts of the day. But I have to know what those things are before I can figure out where they're going to go, right? So brain dumping to get everything kind of out of your brain and onto paper so that you can organize. And then however you organize typically, I will prioritize things, I'll highlight things. I have bins of markers and Sharpies, and I'll color code things like this is Sensi, this is preschool, this is the kids have sports, all of the things, so that I can look and see, like, I have this to do for Sensi, I have this to do for home, I have this to do for preschool, whatever. And then obviously you have to plan. You have to plan your week. I mean, if you want to go, I will plan the month, obviously, with appointments and important stuff, and then break it down to the upcoming week, and then break it down to your days and figure out what you're going to do each day. Now, if you have a schedule, like I know if there's nurses or I don't know, law enforcement, whatever, if you have a schedule that isn't the same all the time, sometimes this can be a little bit more difficult because you're not able to carve out like the same time every day. But even for me, I only work preschool Tuesday and Thursday mornings is when my class is. So I obviously my mornings aren't dedicated to Sensi, but they can be on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So it really just comes down to what your plan looks like. But then you have to prioritize the things that you've now dumped onto your paper. What are the most important things that you need to get done? 3 things every day. I try to figure out what 3 things I want to get done that day. Everything else is like sprinkles on the cupcakes. Because if I can get those 3 important things done, whatever it is, typically includes some kind of follow-up, typically includes making sure my kids are fed. I mean, that kind of stuff, but 3 big things every day. So if you have like a vertical planner and you want to put those at the top, however you do it, but priorities are key, because those are the things that we're going to make time for, right? I always hear from team members, from consultants, from people all over the place, like, I didn't have time. I don't have time. I say it when I don't feel like working out. I'm like, I didn't have time. Lord knows I had time. I had time. I just didn't want to do it. And there are days where, guess what? We're not going to want to be reaching out and asking people to host parties, or we're not going to want to be labeling product, or whatever it is. But then in comes the procrastination, right? So if we keep procrastinating those things that we aren't feeling are very important, then our list literally just keeps growing, and we are like digging ourselves a hole. And that's when we get burnt out. We feel overwhelmed. We start cutting corners. We start feeling like things aren't going our way. And, you get into that rut. So make your priorities, figure out what those important things that you need to do each day are. Plan them, put them into your planner, and then make sure that you are hitting those at least 3 things every day. Now, you might have like one really big thing on a day, fine. But I typically try to figure out what 3 things I really need to get done every day that I can work my business. And then, like I said, everything else, yeah, if you've got extra time, do some more things, but make sure that you focus on those ones that are most important, because if you start pushing those off, like I said, you're just going to keep digging. You're going to keep digging, and then you're going to feel way, way overwhelmed. One thing that I do want to say, and I'm not great at this, but since I put it in my notes, I feel like I need to mention it, is when you're doing this planning, make sure that you're scheduling in your rest time for yourself, your me time, your self-care, because I'm awful at it. I'm like really, really awful at it. And my husband basically has to force me to like leave the house sometimes. And he'll be like, just go for a drive or something, because I'm always doing something. I'm always doing Scentsy, or I'm always playing with the kids or doing laundry or whatever. And I've always got something that needs to be done. And I have to force myself to take a break. But it's very obvious, I guess, to him, since he forces me to do it, when it's time for me to take a break, like when it's time for me to go do something. So make sure you're scheduling that in. Date nights, self-care, workouts, whatever it is, those things that are not like work related or responsibilities, we're entitled to those. We need those things. And they're important too. So make sure you're scheduling that in. So then when it comes down to actually doing the things that are on your list and that you've scheduled in. So one little, I do a lot of time blocking with my scheduling, and it's not always the same. Like I said, I work outside of the home Tuesday, Thursdays at the preschool, and then occasionally other days, but I will try to figure out chunks of time during the day. When my kids are in school, obviously it's easier because I have until 3:30 every day to get things done. But I do a lot of time blocking, but I use a method which I thought that I came up with this, but apparently somebody else did, and I just was going to take credit for it. But anyway, I'm sure you've probably heard it before. It's called the Pomodoro Method, which I didn't know until I started Googling when I did another training on this. But basically, you get yourself a timer. You set your timer for 30 minutes, 20 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever it is. And you work on one thing for that time period, whatever you set your timer for. Sounds pretty simple. It's totally not, because we all have 8 million things going on in our head. But what I think helps me by using this method is because I'm the person who, like, it's like if you give a mouse a cookie, right? So I'll like come in the office to print something, and I'll be like, oh, I have this stack of bars I need to label. So I'll label the bars, and then I'll be like, oh, I have to go put this Happy Meal together. So then I'll go over here and I'll do Happy Meal. And while I'm on my way to the Happy Meal, I pass the laundry room and remember that I have to fold laundry. So it's very easy to get distracted. So I don't know. I think it's just a thing in my subconscious that I'm like, if I have a timer that says I'm going to do this for 30 minutes, then after the 30 minutes is up, then I can go do all those other things. And I think it's just because I know that there's an end in sight that I'm able to keep, yeah, you down with ADD, exactly. I mean, I have no diagnosis, but I'm pretty sure, I feel like 99% of the population has it, because we've all just got so much going on. But I find that it's super helpful for me. Now I have, so Laura Godwin is my SSD, and we've talked about this before, and she always says, don't use your phone as your timer, because when your timer goes off and you go to reset your timer, you have 17 notifications. And so you're going to start checking those, and then you're on Facebook for an hour, and you've completely blown the plan, right? I have not yet purchased, like she said, just get an egg timer, kitchen timer, whatever. And I haven't done that yet. I do use my phone. But something as simple as that, like I didn't think about it until she said it. And I'm like, but you're totally right. Because as soon as I go to reset that timer, I'm like, oh, well, let me see if I have any emails. I'm one of those people that, like, if I get a text message or an email, I have to answer it right away. I don't like the bubbles. I don't like the notifications. So I have to like take care of all that stuff. So not reaching for my phone to reset that timer is going to alleviate those distractions. But what I usually do when I'm doing this method is it's not always just Scentsy stuff either. Like it might be, I have to make samples, I have to fold laundry, I have to pack lunches, I have to, like, it can be, and I think it still kind of helps keep me organized, even though I'm bouncing from like one responsibility to another, because at least I am focusing on whatever that thing is for that period of time. And I feel like, especially if it's a larger project that you're doing, like if you're doing samples that typically take you a couple hours to get done, for me, it's very hard for me to focus on it, knowing it's going to take me 3 or 4 hours because I'm going, but I also have to do this, 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 and this. Whereas if I know that at the end of that 30 minutes, I can shift my focus to something else, whether it's another 30 minutes of samples or whether it's folding the laundry, in my brain, I'm feeling more accomplished. Like I said, I don't know if that's like an actual thing that's happening or if it's just making my brain happy, but it works for me. And I've had other people that have said, oh, I've tried that and it did help. So that's why I like to bring it up. It's something that definitely works for me. And it allows me to check a lot of the boxes throughout the day. Because I don't allow myself to get distracted within that certain period of time. So that's my one main thing that I typically do in terms of like making sure that I'm staying focused. Another thing that I find super helpful, and I know this is a leadership, you guys are leadership level, so you probably already know a lot of these things, but I spend a good chunk of time. So I'm not one of those people that like schedules my content for my VIP group a month at a time, because I don't work that way. Like I'm kind of like a fly by the seat of my pants person, but I do schedule a lot of posts into my VIP group because, again, if I go into Facebook to make a post in my VIP group, what do? I make the post, but then I spend another 45 minutes on Facebook. And so being able to, even in the morning, like first thing in the morning, I'll go, okay, I want to post about this, this, and this today. And so I'll make those 3 posts, spread them out throughout the day. And then I'll come back and check in at the end of the night and comment on things and like things, because it keeps me away from my group, away from Facebook, allows me to focus on things that are going to be income producing while still keeping my presence there in my group. So I know that there's some people out there that will schedule like their whole month in advance like that. It blows my mind. I wish I could do that, but I can't think that far ahead. I mean, I get excited when I'm like, oh, Sunday is National Banana Day. I'm going to make a post for that. That's like 4 days in advance. That's about as far as I go. So scheduling posts, just because, like I said, it's going to allow you to focus on things that are going to be income producing. Those posts are important because it's going to keep the algorithm happy, whatever that means. But it's going to keep those posts showing up. It's going to keep you at the forefront of your customers' minds because you are present and you are showing up in their Facebook feed and things like that. But while that's happening, you're over here doing something that's going to be giving you a return on your investment. Okay. And then the other thing that I was going to bring up was figuring out some type of, and it all goes together, but figuring out some type of scalable system that will work for you. When you're figuring out your plan for the week, if you specify by the day, like Monday is my customer day, Tuesday is my team day, Wednesday is my hostess day, whatever. If that's a system that is going to help keep you organized, absolutely put that in place. I don't typically have a day assigned for each category, but that's because that's just what works best for me. I've tried it and it didn't work for me because I was like getting shaky on Wednesday when I wanted to do thank you notes to my customers, but my customer day wasn't till next Monday. I'm like, they can't wait that long. Like I need to get them out today. So I can't, it doesn't work for me. Maybe it's that ADD coming back. I don't know, but some kind of scalable system that you can tailor to your business that's going to work for you and allow you to use the time efficiently and be the most productive that you can. And I feel like doing that and showing our teams that you don't have to be working 24/7 in order to be a leader and have a large team and things like that. The more effective that we can be with our time and show our teams the same thing is going to entice them more to want to do what we do, right? As directors and above and things like that. Like, I mean, I don't want people thinking that I'm up at 3 a.m. working. I'm not, but there are times where, I could be, but I don't want we don't want the job to look hard. Just like when we say to our teams, like, don't take 17 bags into your home party because no one's going to want to do that. It's the same thing when we're talking to our teams about leadership roles and responsibilities. We want it to be as easy for them as it would be when you're talking to a hostess about a party. We don't want them to be scared of or scared away from growing because they think it's going to be all this work. Now, is it more work than just running your own business? Sure. But if you manage your time, it's not overwhelming. So yeah, I wrote down I scribbled on here the power hour or power. So the power hour worksheet, I think, is in Workstation, but then I know Kimberly Polita has like a power 30 worksheet, which is, I think, the same concept. It's just for like a 30-minute chunk of time versus an hour. So if doing something like that, where it helps you list out the things that you want to do with that 30 minutes, because one thing that I always tell my team is that if you only have 30 minutes to work your business, don't spend half of that 30 minutes figuring out what you're going to do with your 30 minutes, because once you do that, now you only have 15 minutes. So the planning part of this is super important, especially if you're one of those people that really does have small chunks of time, because you don't want to be spending half of that time going, all right, what am I going to do? I have to do thank yous. So I have to go gather all of my stuff, and then before you know it, your time is up and you've written one thank you because you didn't plan ahead. So just kind of all those things wrapped up in a big ball. And like I said, it's one of those things where you have to do what's going to work best for your business. And it's okay to tweak things. Like if you try something and it's not working, it doesn't mean that you failed at it. It just means it's not right for your business. I tried really hard to do some other people's systems. And I did feel kind of like, I'm like, well, why doesn't this work? Like they make it look so easy, but it just, sometimes things that other people don't work for us. And so the best system that we can put into place is the one that we can stick with, and the one that isn't going to burn us out. So that's what I have for you guys. I hope that, if anybody has questions, let me know, but I hope that like something sticks. I don't feel like I blew anybody's mind with anything, but I think sometimes maybe just hearing things and, presented in a different way sometimes is just like a little light bulb. Yes, I'll only up at 3 a.m. I just did a training yesterday and I had said to somebody, I'm like, I get up at 3 a.m. for two things: launches, and if I'm going to Disney World. Otherwise, please let me sleep because I have no interest.
That's awesome. That was awesome, Kim. It was definitely what I needed to hear. I mean, like you said, it sounds different coming from a different voice. Even if I've said it however many times, it sounds different coming from you. And you brought lots more to the table for sure. So does anybody have questions for Kim before she goes?
How old are your kids?
They're 8. So they're almost 8.5 actually, which totally blows my mind. They'll be starting 3rd grade this year. So
wow. So wait, you guys haven't started school yet?
No, we start after Labor Day.
Man.
So we still have like 2 more weeks of summer, which we have a family wedding this weekend. So I'm glad that we don't have to like try to juggle all of that. But in fact, they go back on the 7th, and then my preschool class starts on the 9th. And so I'll be at SSD Summit. I'm missing the very first day of school. I asked my boss, I'm like, is this a fireable offense if I'm not there on the first day? But she's on my team. So she's like, I totally get it.
That's awesome. So cool.
So you know how crazy it is with multiples and just balancing everything. This was
it's one of those, and people have, I remember even when they were babies up until now, they're like, well, how did you do it? Like, how did you feed 3? How did you do this, that, and the other? And I'm like, you just do. And it's kind of like, I really just say that, like, it's funny how that kind of attitude, I guess, like I can apply that to my business, because it's like, sometimes I don't know how I do it. I just know that I have to get it done. Like, it's important to me, so I get it done. I had to feed. I mean, I will say my mom moved in with my husband and I right before I had the babies, and I don't know that it would have gotten done if she wasn't there to help, but we got it done. Like, there were days where I don't know how it happened, but it did, because obviously it's important. It has to get done. And I feel like, that kind of mentality when we're working our businesses and there's something that we need to get done, like, you just have to figure it out. People can come up with 1,000,001 excuses as to why they can't do it. But it's until you turn the excuses to why you can't until a reason why you need to. Once you make that mindset shift, then it just gets done.
I love that.
Did they
I agree with that 100%. I had twins first, and I'm a mom of 8 now.
Oh my goodness.
It's a Brady bunch too, but what you said is when you do it and it's that much at first, so you did triple as much. So I always kept in my head, like, I had to start out with twice as much. If I could do that, then you can break down anything. And it's the same with having any child. If you can break that down and you are managing your time with your child and your life, it's still applicable. Whether you have 3 like you do, 2 at a time, 8 total, however many, like you said, it's that little bit of time where you just like notch it out and know that you can do anything. You really can. It's
Yep.
just
Absolutely. It all comes down to mindset, really. I mean, I could have had 1 baby, I could have had 5 babies. Like, it is what it is. And the stuff has to get done. Like, they can't feed themselves. So I have to do it. I have to figure it out.
I had a
It's
friend.
just like applying it to our business. It's like the people aren't gonna just come line up at my door waiting to buy Scentsy. Like, I have to make this happen. If I want to do big things, I have to make it happen. No one's gonna do it for me. No one was going to feed those babies for me, and no one's going to make my business grow except for me. So if I want it to happen, then I have to figure out how to do it.
Exactly.
It's funny. I had a friend, she had triplets, and people were like, oh my gosh, how are you handling 3 kids? She's like, well, it's not like they're goldfish. I can't just take care of 2 and wish the other one the best of luck, you know? She's like, you got to. That's all there is to it. You have to do it. So
you figure it out. And I think I do feel like I feel like I was blessed because I didn't have like a single child before that. So I didn't know what it was like to take care of 1 child. Now, maybe if I did, then I would have been like way more overwhelmed because I'm like, okay, I'm used to 1 and now I have 3, but that's all I knew was 3. And truth be told, I worked in childcare for like 7 years. And then I took like a huge long break and went and got my accounting degree in college. But I worked in childcare in an infant classroom for 7 years. And so I remember talking to my husband, like after I had the kids, I'm like, I honestly feel like it was one of those moments where I'm like, everything that I did, like led me here. Like he put me in this infant classroom working with babies. You know, I mean, I wasn't the only one in there, but I was working with multiple babies at the same time. Like, and then I did this other thing, and then he blessed me with 3 babies. And thank goodness he blessed me with 3 sleepers, because had we had not had sleepers, it might have been a totally different story. It might be on the crazy train. But it's crazy how things work out. But it really, like, I think it really comes down to mindset. You know, if you want to make something work, you're going to figure out how to do it. If you don't want to make it work, then you're going to figure out an excuse as to why you can't make it work.
That's right.
I have a question. Okay. You said you write down your top 3 things that you want to get done every day. Can you give us an example of, like, on any given day, what would a top 3 list look like for you?
Okay. So, it would be like, let's say I have, if I have thank yous to get out, those I try to do like first thing in the morning, because if I can get them out into my mailbox by 11 o'clock, my mail lady's going to pick them up and they go out today. So if I have thank yous to do, I'll do those first thing. Follow-ups are kind of always in there because I am like obsessed with making sure that I'm consistent with follow-up. So if I have people to follow up that day, that gets done. That's like a non-negotiable. I will figure out if I have to. I don't use Amy for follow-up. I used to. I don't use it anymore. But if I know I'm going to be gone for the day, like I have a spreadsheet that I use for follow-up, and I will take a picture of my spreadsheet if I'm going to be gone for the day, or it's on my Google Drive, but I always forget that. So I will take a picture usually of the people that I have to follow up, and I'll sit, if I have to sit in my car or at my kids' gymnastics and like be messaging people, I will do that. I'm trying to think of what else. If it could be something like get samples done, like scent of the month samples, or get mailers, VIP mailers ready. If I have to put together party packs for hostesses or get their parties set up on Facebook, and like I use ScentShare to do my parties. So if I have to get posts scheduled in ScentShare, like it's those kind of like big things that I'll make sure get done. And then if there's other things, like if I want to, I'm trying to think of the smaller things, but the smaller things that maybe aren't the big hitters, those are the things that they're like the nice to get to. If I get to those things, then I'll get to them. And if not, it's okay if they get pushed to the next day. But it's those time sensitive things.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I want to make sure that I get my VIP mailers out if my flyers ever get here. I want to get them out because I want those harvest brochures in people's hands by Tuesday. You know,
I
I mean,
that
I've
you
already
said
started
time
sharing stuff,
sensitive.
but when it's time sensitive, those are like the top things that I want to get done for the day.
Okay.
And then everything else kind of just falls in, you know, in whatever priority it would be. But typically time sensitive things, follow up. And then, like I said, if there's parties that need to be set up, that kind of stuff.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anything else, guys?
Do you like on Sunday, do you plan out your week, or do you plan every morning, or like how do you figure out what your top 3 things are gonna be?
So typically I'll do it on Sunday. Sunday's kind of my planning day, and it depends, honestly, it depends on what kind of things my kids have, because like my son sometimes has hockey and we're gone all day. So the planning day can sometimes change, but I'm always kind of looking at what my schedule is for the following week. And so I know on a monthly basis that I typically get my scent of the month stuff around the 20th. So I'll figure out like, okay, my scent of the month should be here about this day. So I'm going to plan to do my samples and get my mailers ready on this day. And I might need to tweak it here and there, but there are some things that you can plan ahead of where they're going to fit into your schedule. In terms of doing it for the week, I mean, like I said, follow up is always on there, and I follow up every day. So I don't have like I don't follow up just on Mondays. Like I follow up every day with whoever needs it. So that's pretty much always on my list. But then I really just kind of look at what the week is. If I have parties coming up, obviously those party related things are going to fall into that week. If I don't have a lot of parties, it might be more things like doing more engagement posts in my VIP group, or doing more reach outs to past hostesses and things like that. It really just kind of depends on what those, like I said, big hitter things are. If I have those, they get put in there first. And then if I happen to have a day where I'm like, I don't really have anything that has to get done today, I'll figure out something else that I can kind of plug in there. Or I take my day off, that might be my rest day where I might, go running or something, do something else that's not Scentsy related. And that's another thing too, is like, I feel like people think that we have to work this every single day. But the beauty is, if you do it the right way, you don't have to work it every single day. I went on vacation at the beginning of August for a week with my family, and I was still getting those emails. You got a PWS order, you got a PWS order. And I wasn't completely off the grid. So I was doing some things, but I was not working very hard on the beach, but because I had things planned and ready to go, I was able to take some time and not have to worry about those things. Does that help?
That was awesome.
Yeah, I think, it's one of those things where it's going to be individual to everybody's business as to, what you're going to plug into those spots, but it's those heavy hitter, time sensitive, income producing things that are number one. And then everything else kind of falls in line behind that.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Anything else, guys? All right. Thanks, Kim, so much.
You are so very welcome. My pleasure.
Thank you.
It was awesome. I'm